Admiral Charles Bennett stood at the large window of the space station. His tired eyes watched the alien warship surrounding Earth's last diplomatic ship. The station orbited Alpha Centauri, the closest star system to Earth and now the edge of what humans could call friendly space. "They made their choice," said Lisa Ward. Her voice was calm, but her hands shook slightly. As Earth's last ambassador to the Galactic Coalition, she carried the weight of humanity's future on her shoulders. Charles took a deep breath. "Show me." The screen lit up. On it appeared High Chancellor Zaxnol, the leader of the Coalition Council. The alien was tall, with gray skin and 6 blinking eyes. Each eye blinked one after another, a clear sign he was uncomfortable. "People of Earth," the alien's voice came through the translator. "The Council has looked at what happened at Proxima Centauri and Tau Ceti. We know you say you were defending yourselves, but the way your ships fought shows again why the Coalition was right about humans from the start." Lisa stepped closer to the screen. "Chancellor, we followed all your rules since we joined. The Ordath ships fired first, and you wiped out their entire fleet using methods that broke 17 Coalition war rules." Zaxnol cut her off. "This is the 5th time in 3 years. We warned you after what happened at Epsilon Eridani." Charles felt his jaw tighten. The Ordath commander was going to use planet-killer weapons on a civilian station. Millions of people would have died. Yet only human commanders find themselves in these impossible situations, another alien voice said from off-screen. "Only humans always choose the most destructive path." Zaxnol raised one of his 4 arms. "Our decision is final. Under Coalition, Rule 47. Humans can no longer take part in any military actions in Coalition space. Earth's defense forces will be broken up. Your warships will be taken apart or given to Coalition control. Earth and all human colonies will stay under Coalition protection. You're taking away our right to defend ourselves," Charles said, his voice low with shock. "We are making peace happen," Zaxnol said. "Humans can still do business, science, and share culture. But your kind has shown again and again that you cannot be trusted with weapons of war. The way your minds work, your fighting instincts, how unpredictable you are." The alien's eyes blinked faster. "You do not fight in a civilized way." Lisa gripped the edge of the table hard. "And if we say no, then Earth will be completely alone. No trade, no help, no protection. Every member of the Coalition agrees on this." Charles watched as Lisa's professional calm finally broke, showing the anger underneath. "You're afraid of us." "Yes," admitted Zaxnol without hesitation. "And sometimes, fear makes sense. You have 30 days to obey." The screen went dark. Lisa turned to Charles, her eyes reflecting the starlight. "That's it? 200 years working with the Coalition and they treat us like children who can't be trusted with scissors?" Charles ran a hand through his gray hair. "We knew this was coming after what happened at Tau Ceti. The Council has been looking for a reason to do this since we joined them. Because we're too good at fighting," Lisa said bitterly. "Because we're too human," Charles said. "They've never understood how we think. To them, the way we fight seems wild and scary." "It works," Lisa said firmly. Charles nodded slowly. "Earth will adjust, we always do. And what happens when the Coalition needs us? When they face something their precious rules can't handle?" The Admiral's face hardened. "Then they'll learn why they were right to fear us." Neither spoke the old Earth saying that hung in the air between them. "Be careful what you wish for." As Lisa left the room, Charles stayed by the window. He watched the Coalition ships, their strange shapes so different from human designs. For 2 centuries, humans had tried to fit in with the Coalition's idea of civilized space. They had changed their ships, their weapons, their tactics, but in the end they couldn't change what made them human. When the Ordath fleet attacked the civilian station at Tau Ceti, the human response had been swift and total. 3 Earth ships against 15 Ordath warships. No human commander would have followed Coalition battle rules when millions of innocent lives were at stake. Captain Diane Foster had made the only choice a human could make. She ignored the rules and saved those people. But the Coalition couldn't understand. To them, following proper battle protocol mattered more than results. They would rather lose. correctly than win incorrectly. Charles touched the window, feeling the cold glass under his fingertips. Beyond it lay thousands of worlds, hundreds of alien species, and not one that thought like humans did. They don't understand us, he whispered to himself. They never have. His comm unit beeped. It was a message from Earth's Defense Command. Contingency Protocol Lazarus is now active. Charles smiled grimly. The coalition thought they were disarming humanity. What they didn't realize was that humans had been preparing for this day for generations. Let them think they've won, Charles said to the empty room. Let them think we're tamed. Outside, the coalition ships began to move away. Their mission complete. Earth was officially demilitarized, no longer a fighting force in galactic politics. The great experiment of human integration into galactic society had failed. But as Charles watched them go, he knew something they didn't. Humans had never stopped planning for war. Not in all their long, bloody history. Not when they reached the stars, and certainly not now. See you soon, Charles said to the departing ships. Sooner than you think. 73 years later, Chancellor Krell-Null paced back and forth in the Coalition Emergency Council room. He was the great-grandchild of Zax-Null, who had banned humans from war. The screens around the room showed the same scary pictures from many star systems, huge ships coming out of strange space holes. These enemy ships were much bigger than coalition ships and pushed aside defense fleets like they were nothing. The Vandar Collective has broken through our outer defenses, said General Ixus, the coalition's top military leader. The lizard-like officer's scales had lost their shine from worry. We can't contact anyone in the Procyon, Sirius, and Altair areas anymore. How many dead? Asked Council Member Threll, her feathers flat against her head in fear. Everyone, Ixus said. The Vandar are eating all living things in the systems they take over to power their growth. Krell-Null tried to stay calm. What about our best fleet at Rigel? Destroyed in less than 6 hours. Our battle plans don't work against them. Ixus showed a new 3D model. Their ships learn to fight our weapons within minutes. They have technology we've never seen before. Worried whispers spread through the council. There must be something we haven't tried, said Councillor Drav from the Mironian cluster. The general looked grim. The Vandar will reach the heart of coalition space in 15 days. At the rate we're losing ships, we will have no military left in 22 days. The room fell silent. Then an old councillor, whom many had forgotten was even there, spoke up. Vixtor was the longest-serving member of the council, and had been there when humans were banned decades ago. We have one option we haven't thought about, he said quietly. Krell-Null's eyes blinked fast in annoyance. If you're talking about giving up, I'm talking about asking the humans for help. The room exploded with protests. That's crazy. They haven't had a military for generations. We can't trust them. Vixtor waited until everyone quieted down. I was against banning the humans back then. It was not smart. Yes, humans were dangerous, but they were part of our coalition for a reason. Their minds work in ways ours don't. The humans have no military, General Ixus said flatly. Their warships were taken apart or turned into civilian ships. We took all their weapons. A small, knowing smile crossed Vixtor's face. Are you sure about that, General? Have you been watching their secret research bases on Mars? Their deep space? Activities beyond where our outposts can see? How much they've been building in the asteroid belt? Krell-Null stared at the old counselor. What are you saying? I'm saying that humans have never, in their whole history, stopped getting ready for war. Vixtor touched his control panel, showing a secret file. Some of us kept unofficial contact. Some people in coalition intelligence thought it was wise. The file showed video of huge shipyards hidden in Saturn's clouds, building facilities carved inside small planets beyond Neptune, and training centers buried under the moon's surface. This breaks the terms of their ban, whispered Krell-Null. Yes, agreed Vixtor, and it's our only hope to survive. 3 days later, A coalition diplomatic ship entered the solar system for the first time in over 70 years. It was met by a complex defense system that had never been on any official record. In the Oval Office of the North American Union Building, President Samuel Taylor met with the coalition visitors. Unlike the fancy rooms of coalition diplomacy, the human leader's office was simple, practical, and lined with books. Real paper books, a human oddity that had always confused other species. Chancellor Krell Newell, Sam said with a nod. No bow, no formal coalition greeting. Earth is surprised by your visit. The Chancellor gave the traditional greeting anyway. President Taylor, the coalition faces a threat like never before. The Vandar Collective has broken into our space and is consuming entire star systems. Our military has proven not good enough. Sam leaned back in his chair, his brown eyes studying the alien diplomat. I see. And you've come to Earth because we need humanity's help, Krell Newell admitted, clearly finding the words hard to say. You banned us from war, Sam said simply. Yes. You took our ships, broke up our defense forces, and threatened to cut us off completely if we didn't obey. Things have changed, Krell Newell insisted. The Vandar will reach Earth eventually. They will consume your people just like they're consuming ours. Sam stood and walked to the window, looking out at the rebuilt Washington skyline. Chancellor, there's something you should understand about humans. When you told us we couldn't fight anymore, you didn't create peace. You created something much more dangerous. And what is that? Sam turned back, his face hard and determined. 73 years of non-stop military research and development with absolutely nothing to lose. He pressed a button on his desk. A 3D display lit up, showing the solar system. Then one by one, hidden military bases began to appear throughout the display. Huge fleets coming out from the clouds of Jupiter and Saturn, weapon platforms appearing in the asteroid belt, carrier groups rising from beneath the surfaces of moons. We're not joining your war, Chancellor, Sam said quietly. We're ending it. Krell Newell stared at the display in shock. His 6 eyes blinked rapidly as dozens, then hundreds of human warships appeared on the screen. They weren't like the coalition ships that all followed the same design rules. Each human ship looked different, built for different purposes. Some were small and fast, others huge and heavily armed. But how? The Chancellor finally managed to ask. We monitored your shipyards. We had observers on Earth. Our sensors scanned your system regularly. Sam smiled. You looked for what you expected to find. Big military bases. Obvious weapon. Factories. But we didn't build one massive military. We built thousands of small pieces and hid them in plain sight. That mining equipment in the asteroid belt, those atmospheric research platforms in Saturn, the deep space science vessels, all military, already. Krell Newell's translator struggled to find the right words for the emotions on Sam's face. It wasn't anger exactly. It was something older, more primal. For 73 years, Sam continued, you thought we were obeying your rules. In reality, we were preparing for this day. Humans have never stopped planning for war. It's built into us. It's how we survived on Earth before we reached the stars. Your people lied to us, Krell Newell said, but there was no real accusation. In his voice, only dawning understanding. No, we just didn't tell you everything. There's a difference. Sam walked closer to the alien. Now tell me about these Vandar. How do they fight? What are their weaknesses? We need to know everything if we're going to save what's left of the coalition. As Krell Newell began to explain, he realized the human wasn't listening just to help. Sam's eyes had the look of a predator assessing its prey. For the first time since the Vandar appeared, the Chancellor felt something like hope. They had feared humans enough to ban them from war. Now they would see if that fear was justified. Admiral Grace Daniels stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance, the main ship of humanity's first fleet. At 52, she was young for her high rank, but no human had led a real battle fleet in over 70 years. All the practice and simulations she had run throughout her career were finally going to be tested in real combat. Coalition ship is asking to come aboard, said Communications Officer Jack Miller. Grace nodded. Let them come. Let's hear what our old friends have to say before we Start fighting. Chancellor Krell Null and General Ixus appeared on the bridge transport pad with old Counselor Vixtor. The Coalition visitors couldn't hide their shock as they looked around the bridge of the human warship. It looked nothing like the clean, orderly command centers of Coalition ships. The Defiance's bridge was a mix of cutting-edge technology and old-fashioned controls, physical switches next to holographic displays, backup systems for the backup systems, and most disturbing to the visitors, weapons built right into the walls. This ship, Ixus began, it breaks at least 36 Coalition design rules. We're not in the Coalition anymore, Grace replied simply. Welcome aboard the Defiance. I understand you've been told about our battle plan. Krell Null's multiple eyes blinked rapidly. Your plan is very unusual, Admiral. Your ships plan to attack the Vandar directly? All Coalition battle simulations show. With respect, Chancellor, Grace cut him off. Your simulations are based on Coalition fighting methods, which the Vandar have already figured out how to beat. We'll be using human tactics. That's what we're counting on, Vixtor said, getting surprised looks from his colleagues. Grace pointed to the main screen, which showed the gathered human fleet. Over 600 ships of different designs, some sleek and predatory, others bulky and covered, with weapon systems. 73 years ago, you told us our way of thinking made us unsuitable for civilized warfare, Grace said. Today, those same thought patterns are your best hope. General Ixus studied the tactical display with professional interest. Your vessels look all different. There's no standard design. Jack Miller smiled. That's on purpose, General. The Vandar adapt to patterns. We don't give them patterns to adapt to. One human is unpredictable, Grace explained. A group of humans, deliberately trying to be unpredictable. That's what you're looking at. Krell Null stepped closer to the display. You have never fought the Vandar before. They've destroyed everything we've sent against them. True, Grace acknowledged. But we have something you don't. And what is that? Asked the Chancellor. Lieutenant Ryan Weaver spoke up from his tactical station. Earth history, sir. We've been running simulations of first contact wars and extinction-level threats since before we discovered faster-than-light travel. Every human child grows up with stories about alien invasions. We've been preparing for this moment for over 300 years. Vixtor nodded wisely. This is what I tried to explain to the Council. Humans don't approach war like other species. They've spent generations imagining every possible way they might face extinction and how to prevent it. Grace turned to her crew. Battle stations, get ready for jump. The Coalition representatives watched in alarm as the bridge transformed. Protective barriers rose around each station. Crew members injected themselves with combat drugs. The lighting changed to a deep red. What are you doing? Asked Ixus, disturbed by the transformation. Getting ready for a fight, Grace replied simply. Chancellor, General, this is your last chance to go back to your ship. Once we engage the Vandar, we won't stop until they're defeated. Krell Null hesitated. Our analysts say this is a suicide mission. Even with your unusual approach, the Vandar outnumber you greatly. Grace smiled, a predator's smile that made the Coalition representative step back without thinking. Numbers don't win battles, Chancellor. She turned to the helm. Lieutenant Kelly Parker, take us in. The young officer's fingers moved quickly across her controls. Coordinates set for the Procyon front, Admiral. The Vandar won't know what hit them. That's the idea, Grace replied. First Fleet start jump, Operation Lazarus is a go. As the fleet vanished into faster-than-light tunnels, Vixtor whispered to his colleagues, Now you'll understand why we feared them. The Battle of Procyon started normally enough. The human fleet came out of jump points arranged in a standard Coalition defensive formation, exactly what the Vandar would expect from another Coalition counterattack. The Vandar response was immediate. Their massive living machine ships, each the size of a small moon, moved to surround the human forces in the same move that had destroyed countless Coalition fleets. General Ixus, watching from a side tactical station, shook his head. They've fallen into the same trap as our. His words died as the human fleet suddenly broke formation. each ship speeding in seemingly random directions. What had appeared to be a single united fleet broke into dozens of smaller battle groups, each doing entirely different battle moves. "What are they doing?" demanded Krelnul. Grace didn't answer, her attention focused on the battle. Starting Phase 2, all ships, release countermeasures. From the human vessels came thousands of small objects, some fake targets, some mines, some autonomous weapon platforms, creating a chaotic field that confused the Vandar targeting systems. "Swarm Groups A through F start attack pattern Thermopylae," ordered Grace. "Heavy Group prepare for hammer strike on my mark." Vixtor watched in fascination as smaller human ships darted between the massive Vandar vessels, exploiting blind spots in their defenses and targeting previously unknown weaknesses. Unlike coalition ships which relied on shields and point defense systems, the human vessels appeared designed to take damage, sacrificing parts of their hulls to keep fighting. "They're fighting dirty," Ixis observed, unable to hide a hint of admiration from his voice. "They're fighting to win," corrected Vixtor. When the first Vandar capital ship exploded, a cheer went up from the Defiance's crew. But Grace remained focused. "We've got their attention," she noted. "Now for the real surprise. All ships, deploy Nemesis systems." Jack Miller turned from his station. "Admiral, the Coalition representatives don't have clearance for Nemesis." Grace glanced at the aliens. "Consider them cleared. They should see what humanity has been working on during our exile." From hidden bays in the largest human ships emerged what appeared to be missiles, but unlike any weapons the Coalition had ever developed. As they approached the Vandar fleet, they began to change, adapting their shapes in response to the Vandar defenses. "What are those?" whispered Krelnul. "We call them Nemesis units, nano-enabled multi-environment synthetic intelligence systems," explained Ryan from Tactical. "Self-evolving counter-intrusion weapons." "You created artificial intelligence weapons?" Ixis was shocked. "The Coalition banned such research centuries ago after the Cybrid uprising." "Yes, we know," Grace interrupted. "We studied that failure extensively. Our approach is different. The Nemesis weapons made contact with the Vandar ships, and instead of exploding, they began to burrow inside, adapting to the Vandar's countermeasures in real time." "The Vandar adapt to patterns," Grace explained. "Nemesis doesn't use patterns. Each unit is unique with randomized attack protocols guided by a human-modeled unpredictability algorithm." Vixtor stared at the tactical display in amazement. "You weaponized your own unpredictability." "Exactly," Grace confirmed. "While the Coalition spent decades trying to make warfare more predictable and civilized, we embraced chaos as a tactical advantage. Within hours, the tide of battle had turned. The Vandar, encountering an enemy they couldn't predict or adapt to, began to retreat. What had begun as a desperate last stand was becoming a decisive victory. As the Defiance chased a damaged Vandar command ship, Krelnul approached Grace. "Admiral," the Chancellor said quietly, "I believe humanity deserves an apology. We feared your species because you didn't fight according to our rules. We never thought there might be enemies for whom our rules would be useless." Grace kept her eyes on the battle. "Apology accepted, Chancellor, but the war isn't over yet." "What happens after we defeat the Vandar?" asked Krelnul. "Will humanity rejoin the Coalition?" Grace finally turned to face the alien diplomat, her face unreadable. "That, Chancellor, will be a very interesting conversation." 3 months after the Battle of Procyon, representatives from every Coalition species gathered in the Great Assembly on Earth, the first big space meeting held on human soil since the ban. The meeting hall had been built in the ruins of Geneva, a choice that sent a clear message to the Coalition delegates. They sat uncomfortably, surrounded by reminders of human history and culture. Buildings that were both beautiful and practical, art showing both creation and destruction. President Samuel Taylor entered without ceremony, with Admiral Grace Daniels and a small group of human military and science leaders. The Coalition representatives stood up to show respect, something they had rarely done for humans in the past. Representatives of the Galactic Coalition, Sam began, his voice easily heard throughout the hall. "Welcome to Earth. 3 months ago you came to us because you were desperate. Today you come in victory. The Vander Collective has been pushed back beyond the Sagittarius Arm, their leadership destroyed, their advance stopped." Chancellor Krell Newell stepped forward. "A victory made possible only because humanity helped us. The Coalition acknowledges this debt and offers its deepest thanks." Sam nodded. "We appreciate your thanks. But we're not here to talk about thanks. We're here to talk about the future." The hall fell silent. "For 73 years, Sam continued, humanity lived under a punishment we never deserved. We were banned from war not because we were bad soldiers, but because we were too good. Because we approached fighting in ways your cultures found disturbing." Several Coalition delegates shifted uncomfortably in their seats. "But war," Sam said, his voice growing stronger, "doesn't care about cultural feelings. War doesn't follow rules. The Vandar proved that. They nearly destroyed you because you fought according to protocols that valued doing things the right way over actually winning." Grace stepped forward. "The Vandar have been defeated but not destroyed. They will recover, adapt, and return. When they do, the Coalition must be ready, truly ready, not just sticking to fighting methods that have failed again and again." Counselor Drav of the Moronians stood up. "What exactly are you suggesting, Admiral?" "A new Coalition defense plan," Grace replied. "One that includes human strategic thinking instead of excluding it. One that recognizes that different species bring different strengths to the battlefield." She turned on a display showing a reorganized Coalition defense structure, with human officers included at every level. "You're asking to rejoin the Coalition military," observed General Ixas. "No," corrected Sam. "We're offering to save the Coalition military from its own outdated thinking. There's a difference." Krell Newell's eyes blinked as he thought deeply. "And what does Earth want in return for this generous offer?" Sam smiled. "Recognition, not just of our military help, but of our approach to survival. 73 years ago, your predecessors called us uncivilized because we didn't fight, like you. Today, we're asking you to acknowledge that civilized warfare makes no sense. War is never civilized." "The ban decree must be officially canceled," added Grace, with a statement that it was wrong from the start. Vixie Tor, who had supported the humans throughout the Vandar crisis, spoke up. "There's more, isn't there? You want a seat on the High Council?" "Yes," Sam confirmed without hesitation. "Humanity has earned it. Not just through the Vandar campaign, but through 7 decades of innovation while under restrictions that should have crippled us. We turned a ban into an opportunity." A wave of whispers ran through the assembly. "And if we refuse?" asked a Thoraxian delegate from the back of the hall. The room grew tense as Sam and Grace exchanged a look. "Then Earth will continue as we have been," Sam said finally. "Independent, self-sufficient. And when the Vandar return, as they will, you'll be welcome to call us again. But the terms won't be as good next time." The implied threat hung in the air. Krell Newell stepped into the center of the chamber. "President Taylor, Admiral Daniels, you've proven your point. Humanity approaches challenges differently than the rest of the Coalition. We've seen the value of that difference." The Chancellor turned to address the assembly. "For too long, the Coalition has confused sameness with unity. We demanded that all species adapt to a single approach, our approach. By doing that, we made ourselves weaker." Old Vixtor nodded in agreement. "The founders of the Coalition imagined a galaxy where different species contributed their unique strengths for the common good. Somewhere along the way, we forgot that. Diversity is strength, not weakness." Sam's expression softened slightly. "The human delegation will leave while the Council discusses this. We await your decision." 3 hours later, the humans were called back to the assembly. The mood had changed, tension replaced by a cautious but real respect. Chancellor Krell Newell stood at the center of the chamber. "President Taylor, the Coalition has reached a unanimous decision. The ban decree is hereby canceled, with formal acknowledgement that it was misguided. Furthermore, Earth is granted a permanent seat on the High Council, with all associated rights and responsibilities." A round of applause. A human custom that some coalition species had adopted spread through the chamber. Additionally, continued Krelnul, we propose creating a new coalition defense academy to be located here on Earth, where your military, thinkers and strategists can train a new generation of coalition officers. Sam exchanged surprised glances with Grace. This was more than they had expected. These terms are acceptable, Sam said formally, then added with a slight smile. And appreciated. Grace stepped forward. There's one more thing, Chancellor. The Vandar technology we captured during the campaign, we've been studying it. There's evidence they weren't acting alone. Something drove them into coalition space, something they were running away from. The chamber fell silent once more. We believe there's a greater threat beyond the edge of the galaxy, Grace continued, one that even the Vandar feared. If we're right, the war we just fought was just the beginning. Bixtor rose slowly from his seat. Then it seems the coalition made its decision just in time. If this threat is real, we will need humanity's unique perspective more than ever. Outside the assembly hall as the formal meeting ended, Admiral Grace Daniels found herself standing beside General Ixus, looking out over Lake Geneva. Your people never stopped preparing for war, even when we forbade it, Ixus observed. Why? Grace thought carefully before answering. Because human history taught us one unchangeable truth. Peace is not the natural state of the universe. Peace must be created, nurtured, and, when necessary, defended. A warrior philosophy, noted Ixas. A survival philosophy, corrected Grace. Humans don't love war, General. We're just unwilling to pretend it doesn't exist. The reptilian officer was silent for a moment. I studied your Earth history while we fought the Vandar. Your species nearly destroyed itself multiple times. Yes, Grace acknowledged. We learned from those mistakes. We learned that strength without wisdom is self-destructive, but wisdom without strength is suicide. And now? Asked Ixus. What will humanity teach the coalition? Grace looked up at the stars becoming visible in the evening sky. That the universe doesn't care about our rules or our ideals. That survival sometimes requires us to embrace the very things we fear about ourselves, including humanity's capacity for violence, including the understanding that peace is worth fighting for, Grace replied. Even if the way we fight disturbs you. In the distance, the lights of the rebuilt Geneva glowed against the approaching night, a sign of humanity's endless cycle of destruction and renewal. Above, the first stars of evening appeared, no longer distant points of scientific interest, but neighboring worlds in a galaxy that humanity had rejoined as equals. The exile was over. Humanity had returned to the galactic stage not as beggars but as saviors. The species that had been banned from war had just saved the galaxy because of, not in spite of, the qualities that had led to their ban. As President Sam Taylor had told his staff before the assembly, they didn't just bring us back to fight their war, they brought us back to teach them how to survive. The lesson had begun.